Oh man, Saturday was such a great day of racing because just before the Xfinity race, we watched an absolute banger of an IMSA race as well. I know I feel like I might be in the minority here because there is a lot of people on the internet, which I'll talk about that more when we get to the IndyCar stuff. But there's a lot of people on the internet really bagging on the entire Detroit weekend here, particularly the IndyCar race, a little bit of the IMSA stuff as well. But this IMSA race, the Detroit Grand Prix, was an absolute banger. I said last year when we saw the Michelin Pilot Challenger Series race there last year, I was like, holy cow, how freaking badass would it be to see GT3s and some prototypes driving around here?
Hey everybody, this is Thomas from the Dega Boys channel reminding you to hit the like button if you're enjoying what you're watching. If you want to see more great content like this, make sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the bell icon as well to be notified of any future videos coming out. Thanks for watching, now back to the video.
Like, it would be so amazing. And we got it, dude. Yeah, we saw the number 6 Porsche qualify in pole, and it looked like they were going to control this race. I picked them on the podcast last week to win this race, and I was like, I felt really confident, really good about it. And early in this race, they were doing fantastic. I remember at the beginning of this race, we saw a couple mechanical issues by some of the GTD Pro cars. We saw the Corvette, the pole sitter there in GTD Pro have issues. We saw one of the Ford Multimatic teams have issues. Go figure there. That doesn't shock me one bit. They're both done early. Basically used the rest of the race as test session, multiple laps down. And then the first major incident I'll talk about though, Tom, was when Tandy's behind the wheel of the 6 Porsche. He's leading the race. He's coming up on the back of the GTD field, and he just absolutely aims right for the back of the number 35 Ferrari, right into the chicane or the hairpin. Oh, dude, he sent him, dude. Oh my gosh, that's the most Nick Tandy thing I've ever seen, dude. Like, I would have expected that from like Jack Aiken or like Matthew Jomine, but Nick Tandy did.
That was painful to watch. That was like, it was like, I don't even know. Well, I don't even know. That was just painful.
So dumb. And the damage that he incurred from that too, like the Ferrari had pretty significant damage, but it went to the tire barrier in a way where like he just bounced kind of off and kept going, but Tandy got the time penalty for that, for avoidable contact. The whole front end, the aero, the downforce in that car must have been destroyed because he had no more pace for the rest of the race. I know they did cycle back to the lead eventually when they made the driver swap, but I mean, they were just basically a sit and duck, and we'll talk about that when we get towards the end of this race, but I couldn't believe that. And then also, Connor DeFelipe. What happened to Connor DeFelipe, Tom? This man was an absolute cannonball in this race, dude. He ends up driving it into the barrier in the hairpin. He ends up driving it into a barrier, I believe, in turn 6. Drives it into the barrier there in turn 1. I mean, what? And then he pounds it off the wall off of turn 1 as well. Like, what the, or turn 2, excuse me. What the hell was DeFelipe doing in this race? What happened to this man?
His dog died. That's the only explanation. That's it.
Dude, it's unbelievable to me, man. Like, what was it last year after he won that race at Watkins Glen, right? He absolutely put on a Chad drive, put the BMW team on his back, carried them to that victory at Watkins Glen last year. Me and Tom were like, DeFelipe, he's the next best thing. Like, this guy is going to win IMSA titles. This guy is unstoppable. This year, man, it's been absolutely embarrassing. What is wrong with this man, dude? Like, every time you looked at the TV, you see Felipe in the wall somewhere. Why didn't they pull him out of the car? Where was the driver swap? That's what I don't get. They say committed to him, even with all the incidents he had. Unbelievable.
That's just typical BMW, man. Really? Really? I mean, I'm watching it right now. What the heck was he doing in the hairpin?
Dude, he didn't just miss that braking zone, dude. He, like, literally drove through the braking zone.
It's like, instead of actually driving or looking forward out the windshield, he was looking in his rear camera. Like, look at that's comical.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, put on an absolute display. The one thing that baffles me though is just the driver swap. Like, after the mistakes he was making, he made several mistakes, and they never got a driver swap. Like, yeah, we're watching right now the turn 2 incident when he just pile drives the wall with the right side. He was never going to make that corner. The reason he snapped it sideways because he realized he went too deep into the corner, dude. He corrected it and went right, the tank slapped it with the right rear. I mean, just embarrassing. If I'm Connor DeFelipe, man, I'm going into hibernation for a while. I mean, that is embarrassing weekend there for him.
Almost. That's second place for the Redneck Horsepower Award for this race.
Yeah, I agree. Oh man, and it gets even better because the battle for the win in GTD Pro, the GTD Pro class was really what's a good word for this, Tom? Not that it wasn't competitive, but it was, you had your two best cars. It was the 77 Rexy Porsche and also the number 14 Vassar Sullivan. They were just head over heels better. They end up both having incidents in this race. Both make contact. Both these cars look ready for the dumpster, and they're still pulling away from the rest of the field. Like, how did that even happen? The 14 team, the Vassar Sullivan, their whole front end was ripped off that car. There was no more downforce on the front of that car. That car must have been an absolute tank to drive. I think they interviewed who did they interview at the time? I can't remember if it was Hawksworth or Barnacle. One of the drivers that just got out of the car that had the damage, and they said, "How was it to drive the car?" And they're like, "Oh, I don't really know." And he's like, "Well, you drive it every week. Is it driving different than it normally drives?" And he's like, yeah, but it's still fast." And I thought it was, he just didn't know how to answer that question. I mean, he wasn't at fault for the collision anyway. Really what happened is it was just a late block by the 3 Corvette, who was multiple laps anyway down. Like, I don't get the move to begin with. Ends up getting into the hairpin, makes the late block or whatever, damages the 14. I think the 77 hit the 14 in the rear, or maybe hit the Corvette. I can't really remember exactly, but it was just crazy. I mean, the leaders are having all the issues they're having. It was unbelievable.
Yeah,
Oh,
that was.
man.
Yeah, I'm just.
Oh man.
Banger.
It's a banger. And then remember, I just mentioned Jack Aiken earlier in this, right, Tom? I would have expected a lot of these moves by Jack Aiken, Nick Tandy. Yeah, I could see it, Jomine, but man, did Jack Aiken have his rounds and bouts in this race, man? He, in the turn 1, he ends up turning the JDC Miller Porsche around and causes a big stack up. Everybody's stuck on the track. The only good thing about that, though, Tom, and I'll talk more about this in the IndyCar race, but they had that thing cleaned up in like 3 minutes. We had a 14 car stack up, and they cleaned it up, and we're racing 3 minutes later. Like, how was IndyCar not able to do that? We'll talk about that more in a minute, but yeah, just great job by the track officials there in IMSA. And then Jack Aiken also made contact with Bruni. I don't know if you agree with me on this one, Tom. I've watched it back, and I really do think the Proton was at fault in this scenario because Jack Aiken was to the outside. Bruni, I don't think Bruni expected Aiken to stay to the outside. So I think it's just a racing incident, really, at the end of the day. I don't think Bruni expected Aiken to stay to the outside. Aiken held his line and was going to be brave. I don't think he would have made the corner anyway. I think it's just a really unfortunate situation there. Too bad for the Proton. Ends their race. I mean, honestly, I will chalk it up to a racing incident because I'm not going to give Aiken any of the benefit of the doubt because this is typical Aiken stuff anyway. Like, how many times in the past have we seen Aiken just do absolutely stupid things to destroy a race? I mean, it's a typical thing there out of them. So, yeah. But the end of the race, we see the number 10 Acura with Ricky Taylor and Albuquerque win the race. A masterclass. I mean, what was it, a year and a half since both of them went to victory lane? They were in that championship battle last year, and it ended so dramatically there at Petit with the incident there with the Action Express. And I felt good for him to actually win this race. I thought it was an awesome moment.
Yeah, it for sure was. The move that he made, though, going down into turn 1 on the, was it the 6? Yeah, it was the 6 Porsche. Absolute masterclass driving effort right there. That was awesome. And then not only that, I mean, he pulled away. Like, he didn't let the 6 car come back to him and put up a fight. I mean, that was awesome to watch.
Yeah, it was a beautiful race. It was like this IMSA race was just such a it was like non-manufactured excitement. Like, I mean, people are gonna complain. We'll talk about that more with the IndyCar stuff, as I really want to save it for that. But like, a lot of people don't like this type of racing. I thought it was freaking great, man. This is IMSA, dude. This is the IMSA we've seen over the last couple of years. This is what IMSA is. It's these crazy races with some drama thrown in, and then always a battle for the win late in the race. It just is. That's IMSA, man. It doesn't matter if you run a 24-hour race or if you run a 50-minute race. It's gonna be a battle to the end, a bitter end, survival. It's just, I love it. I love it. IMSA is my favorite racing series for a reason. And we proved it again here in Detroit. I'm so excited for next year, man. I mean, I already saw the schedules. IMSA's going back there next year. I'm sure it's going to be a doubleheader with IndyCar, and I'm excited for it. I think this is one of the best race weekends of the year, seeing the IndyCar and IMSA doubleheader at Detroit. It's just as good as the doubleheader at Long Beach. I think it's freaking beautiful. It's a masterpiece, man. And
It is.
the Rexy ends up winning with Heinrich and Prelude. They end up winning the number 77 Rexy machine there, the Porsche and GTD Pro. Fantastic race. I'm over the moon over this race, Tom. I thought it was just absolutely amazing. I had so much fun watching this. It was just so freaking badass.
You just didn't know what was gonna happen next. Like you can't script this.
It's so great.